Number 10, Magical Venom. So this alternate actually comes to us from the main continuity, but it is a different and cool enough version of sort of Venom that I wanted to talk about it on this list. So before the events of Absolute Carnage take place, Eddie finds himself without his Venom symbiote, but with War of Realms going on, simultaneously finds himself faced with taking on Dark Elves. He ends up being gifted a Dreamstone by one of Malekith's witches, who foolishly expects that Eddie will use the Dreamstone to fight with Malekith's side. Eddie accepts the gift, but of course rejects the offer, biting off that witch's arm. The Dreamstone is a magical item that allows him to make dreams and wishes become reality. He uses it to create his own magical version of the Venom symbiote, but one that is fully under his control, as it doesn't possess its own consciousness. I mean, obviously I think that the Venom voice is usually a plus in most cases, but having your own symbiote that you have complete control over, that sounds pretty freaking sweet. Number 9, Symbiotes. The Symbiotes in the battle realm of Earth 15513 come from the combination of the remnants of the dark side of the Sentry, known as the Void, and the Venom symbiote, after both were blasted away and seemingly disintegrated during the Contest of Champions miniseries by Punisher 2099. Not only do they look super freaky and cool, but it is through their existence that the stick of this universe is able to actually resurrect the Sentry after he's been killed, while at the same time using their connection to the Void to actually siphon out that second personality of Robert Reynolds, so that all that remains is the Sentry, which is pretty neat. Even if you don't think these things are as cool as Venom just on their own, just how they're used, like to create a Sentry without a Void, that's insane. Number 8, Port Grind. Okay, so hear me out. Yes, this version of Venom does come from the same alternate universe as Peter Porker of Earth 8311. And I know what you are thinking, this maybe makes him more ridiculous than the original, not cooler, Amanda. But the crazy thing about any alternates that are from the ANTIVERSE of Earth 8311 is that they have insane physics-defying fighting techniques due to the fact that they are cartoons. Because of this, the Port Grind of Earth 8311 could likely kick the butt of Earth 616's Venom, squishing him into just like a little ball of putty in his hands. He'd like squish it into a ball and then like slam dunk it or something. Now, does increased power equal increased coolness? I think in this case it does, but you can be the judge on that and you can let me know your thoughts on the ANTIVERSE and Port Grind in the comments below.
Number 7, Black Cat. Venom wanted everything to do with Spider-Man from the beginning, starting of course with his love life. So in Amazing Spider-Man issue 316, he went after another close acquaintance, Black Cat. We see her lost in a train of thought as she realizes that her and the Spider should be together, and then in comes Venom just to ruin the whole vibe. Venom attacks and figures that she must know where he is, although she actually doesn't. But before Venom heads out, he casually mentions that Parker's wife didn't know where he was either. Adding insult to injury, literally, in a sense. But Black Cat got an upgrade herself later on in Venom issue 159. The Maniac symbiote took control of her briefly, but luckily this didn't last too long as she was able to break free from the Inklings. Although they do look like a fun time, Black Cat's better as Black Cat.
Number 6, Symbiote Spider-Man. When we're talking about Spider-Man as a villain, there is almost no one more unstoppable or worse than Symbiote Spider-Man from the 1989 What If series in issue number 4. This What If posed the question of what if Spider-Man had become possessed by the symbiote and it was unable to be separated from him. This resulted in Spider-Man becoming the ultimate villain himself, far greater than Eddie Brock's Venom ever was or probably would be. This symbiote took full control over Peter and eventually left him to possess the Hulk, and then moved on to Thor. It just moved on to like more and more powerful beings. The only thing that could stop it was Black Bolt's sonic scream, but it wreaked more havoc than many other symbiotes, save the Grendel symbiote, maybe, ever have. And it also drained like the life energy of Peter, like he was like a little old man at the end. Number 5, Spider Carnage. What's cooler than Cletus Cassidy as Carnage? A determined Peter Parker is Carnage with bigger ambitions, like destroying the multiverse. That was the goal of Spider Carnage from an alternate Earth that we got to visit alongside the main continuity Spider-Man in the episode of Spider Wars Part 1 from the 90s Spider-Man animated series. Spider-Man was forced to amass an army of alternate selves plus an alternate Uncle Ben to put a stop to Spider Carnage, who became a killer after the tragic loss of both his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May. Aww. Number 4, First Draft Venom. Did you know that Eddie Brock actually wasn't the original idea for Venom? At least that's how the story goes. When David Michelinie originally pitched the origins for Venom, it wasn't Eddie Brock in the driver's seat of this symbiotic relationship. It was actually a female character instead. If Michelinie's original pitch had been accepted, we'd have seen a different story, one that featured the tragic story of a woman who lost her family, all because Spider-Man personally, I think, gave her more reason to become an even greater villain than Eddie Brock was. The origin story went that the woman was pregnant and was going into labor. Her and her husband were rushing to the hospital, and her husband stepped into the street to frantically hail a cab. Unfortunately, everyone was distracted by a battle happening between Spider-Man and a supervillain in the sky above at the time, and the woman watches as her husband is mercilessly run over. She immediately goes into labor and loses her baby as well to boot. Whew, rough. Admitted to a mental institution, she blamed Spider-Man for her loss, and you can likely guess what happens next. This would have potentially made for an even more compelling and tragic story than the one we got with Eddie Brock. Also, I would be thinking, kind of fair maybe that you're upset. Number 3, Ultimate Venom. There are a couple different versions of Ultimate Venom on the Earth of 1610, the Conrad Marcus version and the Eddie Brock Jr. version. This alternate version of the Venom symbiote was created to be a cure for cancer as opposed to being an alien entity from outer space, and as such its healing and regenerative properties supersede even the Earth 616 version. Like in the Tom Hardy Venomverse, however, this suit can only bond with specific people that it's been created for, and if it isn't compatible, it will kill you. Following down that same murderous path, it has an insatiable hunger and needs to feed off others in order to survive. Failing to keep it properly fed can result in it consuming its wearer instead, but its only other weakness is to extremely strong electric shocks. Extremely strong. This gigantic powerhouse of a symbiote has been shown to be stronger than both Miles Morales and Peter Parker of Earth 1610 combined. So it's also stronger than our Venom, I think. Also just looks bigger. Number 2, GR35. That's what I'm calling this symbiote, because that's kind of where it exists. This version of the suspected Venom symbiote shows up at the end of the 2018 Spider-Man game, which takes place on Earth 1048. This universe actually also has its own comics now as well, so you can read those if you really like it. This symbiote appears to show up in a secret lab in a tank with Harry Osborn labeled GR35, likely a reference to the Ultimate Universe. It's suspected that we will likely see this version of the symbiote in action in the second game, and that it could even be combined with the Goblin serum, so maybe some kind of Green Goblin and Venom hybrid with Harry Osborn, which honestly sounds super cool. We've seen the insanity that was Red Goblin before in the comics with Norman and Carnage coming together, so a Venom/Goblin Harry is definitely something that I would be excited to see. Especially if he's like bad originally and then he becomes good or something like that. I'm into it. Could be fun.
And finally, coming in at number 1, Red Goblin. The Green Goblin, before we even get to the Red Goblin, the Green Goblin has gone toe-to-toe with Spider-Man numerous times, but when he combined powers with Carnage, things got super messy. He appeared for the first time in the Amazing Spider-Man 798. Norman Osborn stole the Carnage symbiote, and after that, hell broke loose. So the rare weaknesses that the symbiote did have went away once the two villains had merged. So if you think you can use sound or fire to take this guy out, well, good game, pal, think again. Green Goblin was fine with those things, so now he's gonna be fine with them again. Even the bombs that he throws are like merged pumpkin Carnage bombs, and they bite you. They have a face on the bomb, and the bomb can bite you. The only thing that can damage the Red Goblin is the touch of Agent Venom, aka Flash Thompson. But in this issue, Flash uses most of his ability to heal Peter's leg. So now Peter's our only hope at stopping Norman, aka the Red Goblin. Number 10, Venom. Now, of course, I'm gonna start with Eddie Brock. I mean, this dude made his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man 252. Venom was initially attached to Peter Parker, obviously, hence everything, aka Spider-Man. So before that, it even bonded with Deadpool briefly. God, I would pay to see that on the big screen. Still would be R-rated. Has to be at that point. It didn't last very long though, so eventually I moved on and found none other than Eddie Brock. Cue Topher Grace cringe. After being part of the Kree-Skrull War, he's actually an anti-hero, despite how he may look. And the teeth give away a lot. I was excited to see him in Spider-Man 3, as most of you probably were, because Spider-Man 2 is still one of the best superhero movies, hands down. Fight me. I don't know. So once I heard about the villains in Spider-Man 3, I was pumped. Why? I mean, so once Spider-Man released the symbiote and it bonded to him, he became stronger. He got unlimited webbing, regeneration. He realized that this suit is literally alive. So after Eddie Brock got fired from the Daily Globe, after Spider-Man called him out, oops, Eddie Brock, who also had cancer, got pretty pissed. And as you saw in Spider-Man 3, he eventually bonded with the symbiote at the Bell Tower. Then it was all downhill from there. We are Venom, two become one. So naturally they both wanted to go and try to go after Spider-Man. Imagine having a fully sentient being merge with you. I think I'd be on board. Hey, touch this and you'll be Spider-Man. Okay, done, no problem, no questions asked. The symbiote is able to cling on to other beings and bond with other superpowers. Its weaknesses are heat and loud vibrations. So like I said, it can bond with other superpowers or other superheroes, like the Green Goblin, which I'll save for later. Venom was the 998th spawn, so the 999th symbiote was none other than Number 9, Carnage. What do you get when you mix a mentally unstable serial killer with the offspring of the Venom symbiote? Trouble. You get trouble. That's right, making his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 359, Carnage is a symbiote that is the offspring of Venom. Its host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. Cletus was sharing the same prison cell as Eddie Brock in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 344. So while Cletus was planning on stabbing Eddie Brock, just going red wedding on him, the Venom symbiote comes into the rescue, saves Brock. So after Brock is reunited with the Venom symbiote and breaks out, a little piece of the symbiotic material attaches itself to Cletus, thus becoming Carnage. Carnage is terrifying. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him put in some work in the Venom sequel, titled Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The director has said that just because the main villain is Carnage does not mean that it's R-rated. This has to be R-rated. We're looking forward to seeing him for that reason. That's like making Deadpool not R-rated. Just do it and do it right. Bam. Set to release summer 2021. Look forward to it. So, the malevolent Cletus Cassidy is being portrayed by Woody Harrelson, who is awesome, as you've seen him in anything. I also feel like Michael C. Hall would be good as Cletus. I don't know. Maybe it's the whole Dexter thing. He's got the vibe. Who knows? Are you looking forward to seeing Carnage on the big screen? Let us know in the comments. And after that, coming up, number 8, Toxin. Yep, the 1000th spawn, first appearing in Venom vs. Carnage number 2 in 2004. So when Carnage was giving birth to Toxin, Carnage initially wanted to destroy the spawn. Because once Toxin was finally born, Carnage was too weak by the process to even kill it. Venom, on the other hand, wanted to raise the spawn and train it, and even named it Toxin after itself. What a nice name. New York City cop Pat Mulligan then became the host of the symbiote. So Patrick actually left his wife and kid because this thing was too unpredictable and powerful. Good call, Pat. So Venom and Carnage saw this police officer infused with Toxin and knew that it would most likely end up being a hero. So with his abilities to shapeshift, unlimited webbing, healing factor, tracking specialties, this guy can even hide himself in the blood of his host. Ew! They both obviously tried to kill it and of course failed. Toxin stands out from the rest of the symbiotes because, like I said earlier, he's spawn number 1000, he's special. But why? So every 1000 generations, the symbiote is born with what's called genetic memory breakdown. And since he was abandoned at a young age, he never really acted like a true symbiote. During a heated battle with Venom and Carnage, Toxin is aided by the web-slinger himself, Spider-Man, who's somewhere on my chest. After the unlikely duo defeats Venom and Carnage, Spider-Man gives them the cool dad talk and encourages them to just be better. I like Toxin a lot actually, he reminds me of like a bratty child. He broke Patrick's laptop after he referred to Toxin as a monster in an online blog, but he tried to make up for it by stealing a bag of laptops. What a sweetheart. What a gentle man. Toxin is the second hero in the symbiote family right after Hybrid, who I will explain in 3 seconds. Number 7, Hybrid. Okay, so once the Venom symbiote was taken by the Life Foundation, it was forced to create new spawns from its Klyntar seeds. So these spawns were meant for these mercenaries to become super soldiers. Not a great plan. So as you can probably guess from the name itself, Hybrid is a mix of 4 of these different Life Foundation symbiotes combined. And those 4 are being Riot, Phage, Lasher, and Agony. All these symbiotes combined sounds cool, but I mean, what do? Well, Scream uses this living tendril hair to choke out enemies. Cool. Agony can spit acid, burning through pretty much everything. Lasher uses tentacles coming out of his back. And Phage forms blade-like weapons. So, what a combo. And in comes Scott Washington, a guard at the supervillain prison, The Vault. So he watched as these 4 symbiotes escaped their containment and they all temporarily bonded with him. Wow, okay, what a shift. So after these symbiotes fused with Scott, not only did he regain his ability to walk, nice, but he also discovered that they were not a threat and they were in fact in a lot of pain during all these experiments they were doing. Scott listened to his heart and set them free. Now, it's important to note that Scott Washington actually has a lot of anger inside of him. While normally the symbiotes would encourage the host to commit crimes and lash out, do it! Hybrid does the opposite. How lovely is that? Later on, while Washington is patrolling the streets, Eddie Brock actually paralyzed him with an electric shock, followed by a final bullet, killing Scott Washington in Venom number 4, issue 19. I'd watch this movie. I really hope we get to see Hybrid on the big screen soon, in a different way. I mean, all these voices swirling around Scott's head, that would be epic. You have to pick a good actor to do it though. So many voices, so little time. So these Life Foundation symbiotes were seen on the big screen briefly in the Venom movie, and the main villain being You guessed it, number 6, Riot. So if you saw the Venom movie, then you're familiar with his next symbiote, or symbiote if you only watched the trailer. There aren't too many comic books about Riot, but being the villain of the 2018 live-action film, I can't not include this. Played by Riz Ahmed, Riot can actually contract blades and claws with his powers. He kicks ass, being one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes discovered from a comet. So once obtained, the symbiote attached itself to astronaut John Jameson, and then it eventually found its way to San Francisco when it found Carlton Drake, the CEO of the Life Foundation. The master plan? Well, to bring more symbiotes to Earth and eventually take over the planet. Papa Noah would be so proud. Who's that? He's just the dark god of all Klyntars. I'll get into him later on. That is until Venom comes along and saves the day. Spoiler alert. I like Riot. I think he was pretty decent in the movie. Some have even said they prefer this adaptation of Riot over the comic book version. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Fight down below. Number 5, ANTIVENOM. Also an anti-hero, this non-sentient symbiote made its first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 671. ANTIVENOM was born at the Feast Center in New York City. So in the New Ways to Die storyline, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote have parted ways. And Eddie Brock has cancer. What a bummer. Martin Lee comes in and saves the day and bam, cures the big C. But in doing so, he infused trace amounts of the leftover Venom symbiote with his white blood cells. Oops! So while that was cooking up inside, Mac Gargan, the Scorpion, who was part of the Thunderbolts, and he was the current host of the Venom symbiote. So this ANTIVENOM comes along and fuses with him, and it's pretty sweet. Being one of the white blood cells, he actually has the ability to heal people. He can sense if you got something wrong going on inside, like like an ear infection or I don't know, some more serious disease. He can create antibodies to attack whatever it is. How clutch is that? Flash Thompson actually wore the suit in the storyline too. Super neat. Check it out. Number 4, Raze. Making his first appearance in Carnage Volume 2, Issue 10, Raze was spawned by Carnage, and the symbiote bonded with a special agent named Claire Dixon during this ritual that involved the Darkhold and the Elder God Cthon. The symbiote was tearing it up for a little while until it met its fate only 6 issues later. Yeah, Jubilee actually absorbed it all in order to take out its creator, Carnage. Thank God, because this thing was well on its way to just leveling the planet. Any longer than 6 issues and this thing would have been a pretty big issue. Number 3, ENDO Sim Armor. This symbiote armor was created by Tony Stark, model number 50 to be exact. Making its first appearance in Superior Iron Man Volume 1, the ENDO Sim Armor is a liquid smart metal that forms around the host's body. It was actually inspired by symbiotes. So he uses the suit to fight you. It wraps around you, but you can't control it or host it. What a tease. The stuff is so strong though, it even held up against Storm, so pretty hard not to throw this one in the mix. Number 2, Red Goblin. Okay, so Green Goblin plus Carnage equals holy shit. Appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man 798, Norman Osborn steals the Carnage symbiote, and after that, well, all hell breaks loose. So thankfully, Peter Parker injected the serum into the Green Goblin, infused with nanites, just to help him, chill out. No more powers, no more crazy stuff. Shh, quiet time, that's it. Norman used the Carnage symbiote to eject all the nanites, but then that ended up creating this monster mash becoming, you guessed it, the Red Goblin. The rare weaknesses that the symbiote does have went away once the two merged. That's right, if you think you can use sound or fire to level this guy, think again. Green Goblin was fine with those things, so now the Carnage symbiote isn't even worried about it. Even the bombs that he throws are like these Carnage bombs that can bite you. They're all fused together. It's terrifying. Terrifying. And finally, number 1, my personal favorite, Scream. Yeah, making its first appearance in Venom Lethal Protector number 4, this scary looking symbiote is one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes. Donna Diego, a Life Foundation volunteer, bonded with the symbiote and became Scream. Making a fun little appearance in the Venom movie, Donna Diego, a security guard from the Life Foundation, bonded with the symbiote, and she helped new hosts deal with their symbiotic merging. I imagine it's not too comfortable to have an alien race inside of your head and swirling around your body. Probably pretty uncomfortable. I thought growing was painful. Ooh. The coolest thing about her is that she uses her hair to fight. Like I said earlier, she is one of the Life Foundation symbiotes and she's pretty unique to watch in action. My hair isn't long enough yet. She's actually pretty similar to Venom. The wall crawling, webs, the camouflage, the whole package. And if you saw the Venom movie, you got a chance to see Donna Diego, played by Michelle Lee, in action. So in the comics, she went pretty much 20 years without actually having a proper name. She didn't don the name Scream until the toy line from Toy Biz dropped the action figure in the 90s, titled Scream. It's a pretty cool looking action figure too, yellow with the red splats. I feel like it for sure scared some kids. Kicking off the list at number 10, Venom. Now, of course, we gotta start with one of the more well-known symbiotes, making his first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man 252 as a black suit and nothing more, but it wasn't until issue 299 when he made his Venom debut. Venom was initially attached to Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, and before that it even bonded with Deadpool briefly. He's an anti-hero and he got the spotlight with Tom Hardy playing Eddie Brock in their solo adventure film. So once Spider-Man released the symbiote and it bonded to Eddie, he became stronger. He got unlimited webbing and regeneration, he got all that good stuff, and Spider-Man just called him out. And he realized that this suit is alive. So after Eddie Brock got fired, after Spider-Man called him out, Eddie was of course eager for revenge, so he eventually bonded with the symbiote at the Bell Tower, and naturally they both wanted to go after Peter Parker in their own ways. In an early issue, he gets Peter with this sticky trap, kind of like a saw trap, where he webs him up against the bell, and then he waits for the hammer to hit the bell where his head is. So it's kind of gruesome. So it's pretty messed up right off the bat. So before the human stuff, he was actually created by Krull, like I said, that dark elder god who I'll be getting into a little bit later on. Venom is not the strongest of the symbiotes, but since the symbiote retains Spider-Man's powers, he puts up a pretty gnarly fight. And before we get to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great because it really helps us out here at the channel. You guys rock. Thank you so much for supporting. Now we'll get back to the list. Number 9, Scream. Making its first appearance in Venom Lethal Protector number 4, this scary looking symbiote is one of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes. Meet Donna Diego, a Life Foundation volunteer bonded with the symbiote and became Scream. She even made a fun appearance in the Venom movie. So Donna Diego, a security guard from the Life Foundation, bonded with the symbiote. Now, she helped new hosts deal with the new symbiote merging. I imagine it's not too comfortable to have an alien race inside of your head and your blood and all that stuff. It's probably pretty alarming. Now, the coolest thing about her is that she can use her hair to fight, so she's pretty unique to watch in action. Now, if you saw the Venom movie, you of course got the chance to see Donna Diego, played by Michelle Lee. Now, in the comics, she went like 20 years without actually having a proper name, believe it or not. She didn't don the name Scream until a toy line from Toy Biz dropped the action figure in the 90s, and they just called it Scream. So there you go. Number 8, Carnage. What do you get when you mix a mentally unstable serial killer with the offspring of the Venom symbiote? Well, you get a mess. You get a very, very big mess. Carnage, making its first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 360. Carnage is a symbiote that is the offspring of Venom, so its host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. Cletus was sharing the same prison cell as Eddie Brock in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 344. So while Cletus was planning on stabbing Eddie Brock, the Venom symbiote comes out to the rescue. And after Brock is reunited with the Venom symbiote and breaks out, a piece of that symbiotic material attaches itself to Cletus, becoming Carnage. Carnage is terrifying. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him in the Venom sequel. He's played by Woody Harrelson. It's going to be so loud and so gory. Hopefully it's rated R. Hopefully. If Marvel learns anything, it's that some stories need to be rated R. Number 7, Hybrid. Making its first appearance in Venom, Along Came a Spider, issue 1. Once the Venom symbiote was taken by the Life Foundation, it was forced to create new spawns from its Klyntar seeds. These spawns were meant for these mercenaries to become super soldiers, you know, which is, I mean, sounds cool, but it's probably not a great plan at all. And as you can probably guess from the name itself, Hybrid is a mix of 4 of these different Life Foundation symbiotes combined. Those 4 being Riot, Phage, Lasher, and Agony. Now, all these symbiotes combined sounds cool, but what do they do exactly? Well, Scream, like I said earlier, uses his living tendril hair to choke out enemies. Agony can spit acid, so cool. And Lasher uses tentacles coming out of his back, and Phage forms blade-like weapons, so that's quite a combo already. Scott Washington, a guard at the supervillain prison, the Vault, watched as the 4 symbiotes escaped their containment, and they all temporarily bonded with him. What a shift. So after the symbiotes fused with Scott, not only did he regain his ability to walk, but he also discovered that they were not really a threat, and that they were in fact in a lot of pain during their experiments. So Scott listened to his heart and the symbiotes and set them free. Now, it's important to note that Scott Washington actually has a lot of anger inside himself. While normally the symbiotes would encourage the host to commit these crimes and lash out, Hybrid kind of did the opposite. Strong, but nice. Number 6, ANTIVENOM. Also an anti-hero. This non-sentient symbiote made its first appearance in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 569. ANTIVENOM was born at the Feast Center in New York City. So in the New Ways to Die story, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote have actually parted ways, and Eddie Brock has cancer, so it's looking not great for Eddie right now. So in comes Martin Lee to save the day, and bam, cures the big C. But in doing so, he infused trace amounts of the leftover Venom symbiote with his white blood cells. So while that was cooking up inside, GARGAN, the Scorpion, was part of the Thunderbolts, and he was the current host of the Venom symbiote. So this ANTIVENOM comes along and fuses with him, and it's pretty sweet. Being one of the white blood cells, he actually has the ability to heal people. He can sense if you have something going on inside of you, like an infection or a disease, anything like that. And he can create antibodies to attack whatever that is. Flash Thompson even wore the suit in the storyline. It's pretty fun, you gotta check it out. Number 5, Mayhem. This next symbiote is actually May Parker, and this comes from the What If world where Norman Osborn clones the child of MJ and Peter Parker. But that's not all he did. He also turned her into a human symbiote hybrid by genetically mutating her. So now she has both Spider-Girl's powers and the symbiote's powers. That's pretty strong. And since she's a hybrid and she has both powers of both super beings, her weakness isn't the same as a symbiote, so they kind of balance each other out. So if you're trying to take her out, good luck. Number 4, Krull, the god of the symbiotes. For real. So back it up way before life and creation, before time in the universe itself. I'm talking way back. Ancient malevolent deities awaited. Once the universe became a thing, Krull, the god of darkness, wasn't a fan of the company, and he set out to destroy the Celestials and went to war. So after forging this weapon called the All Black, which is a sword of living darkness, cool, and a Celestial's head, even cooler, after getting his ass handed to him, he figured out a new plan. He realized he can create symbiotes. What is he doing? Also, sir, can I have one, please? Thank you. So he actually manifested himself a symbiotic suit. Must be nice. And then went after all the gods. Bully. Speaking of bully, Krull actually went after the Silver Surfer in Silver Surfer Black. Side note, can we get a Silver Surfer movie like yesterday, please? He eventually arrived on Earth taking on the form of a dragon. Cool entry. Number 3, the Red Goblin. Green Goblin plus Carnage equals bad news, that's for sure. Appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man 798, Norman Osborn stole the Carnage symbiote, and after that, well, all hell just broke loose. But Peter Parker injected the serum into the Green Goblin and fused with nanites to chill him out. No more powers and no more crazy stuff. Quiet time, okay. Now Norman used the Carnage symbiote to eject all of the nanites, but then that ended up creating this monster mashup, becoming the Red Goblin. The rare weaknesses that the symbiotes do have went away once the two had merged, almost like Spider-Girl, who I just mentioned. That's right, if you think you can use sound or fire to level the Red Goblin, think again. The Green Goblin was fine with things like that, so now the Carnage symbiote isn't affected by those things as well. Even the bombs that he throws are like these Carnage bombs that have like faces that bite you. God, it's so scary. Number 2, Toxin. Born from Carnage, symbiote number 1000, we have Toxin, who made its first appearance in Venom vs. Carnage number 2 back in 2004. So when Carnage was giving birth to Toxin, Carnage initially wanted to destroy the spawn. So once Toxin was finally born, Carnage was too weak by the process to even kill it at that point. So Venom, on the other hand, wanted to raise the spawn and train it, and even named it Toxin after itself. New York City cop Pat Mulligan then became the host of the symbiote. Patrick actually left his wife and kid because this thing was too unpredictable and powerful, so he wanted them away from all that noise. Great call, Pat. So Venom and Carnage saw this police officer and fused with Toxin and knew that it would most likely end up being a hero with the abilities to shapeshift, unlimited webbing, healing factor, tracking specialties, and could even hide itself in the blood of its host. A pretty good hero, if you ask me. So they both obviously tried to kill it, and of course failed. Toxin stands out from the rest of these symbiotes because, like I said earlier, he is spawn number 1000. So every 1000 generations, the symbiote is born with what's called genetic memory breakdown. And since he was abandoned at a young age, he never really acted like a true symbiote. During a heated battle with Venom and Carnage, Toxin was given a helping hand by the web-slinger himself, Spider-Man. After the unlikely duo defeated Venom and Carnage, Spider-Man gives him the cool dad talk and encourages him, to be better. I like Toxin a lot, actually. He reminds me of a bratty child. I mean, he broke Patrick's laptop after he referred to Toxin as a monster in a blog, and then he tried to steal a bag of laptops to make up for it. So he's trying. He's tough and he's bad, but he's trying. Toxin is the second hero in the symbiote family right after Hybrid. And finally, number 1, Krull, the god of the symbiotes. Okay, the guy I mentioned earlier, making his first debut in Venom Volume 4, Issue 3, so all the way before life and creation, before the universe itself even. Ancient deities awaited in the darkness. And once the universe became a thing, Krull, the god of darkness, wasn't a fan of the company, and he set out to destroy the Celestials and went to war. So after forging the All Black, a sword of living darkness, and a Celestial's head, which is a cool place to make anything, after getting his ass handed to him, he figured out a new plan. And he realized he can create symbiotes. Okay, let's do it. So he actually manifested himself a symbiotic suit and then went after all the gods. He's recently given the Avengers a run for their money when he arrived on Earth in King in Black, which is quite recent. So if you haven't checked that out yet, it came out last year. Look into it, it's actually a lot of fun. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Dr. Carl Malice. Dr. Carl Malice was always interested in the subject of superhuman powers. Ever since the earlier days of seeing the Fantastic Four in the newspaper, he became obsessed. He got a degree in biology from the University of California. He was brilliant. So brilliant that the guy himself turned Sam Wilson, Captain America, into a werewolf. You heard me. But in Superior Carnage issue 2, the Doc got an upgrade himself. His merging with the Carnage symbiote allowed him to walk again, which is miraculous, but of course he can also transform into the supervillain as well, which is always a fun side effect. Number 9, Deadpool. So before the black suit found Spider-Man in the Secret Wars storyline, the symbiote briefly bonded with Deadpool. But this isn't the only time Wade Wilson has come face to face with a symbiote. In Deadpool vs. Carnage issue 3, we get a much more violent take on this situation. After battling Deadpool, Carnage and Shriek got out of town, but Deadpool was able to track them down, following these clues until eventually he found the pair driving down the highway. So Wade crashed into their car, injuring Shriek and making Carnage very mad in the process. So when Wade finally catches up to Carnage later on, he's ready for the attack. After he rips Wade to pieces, Wade ends up piecing himself back together, but this time with some more symbiote goodness. And before we go on with this list, if you guys want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be great. It really does wonders for a channel, especially while we're working from home. So we thank you so much for your support. Let's get right back into this list. Number 8, Matt Gargan. He first entered comics in Amazing Spider-Man issue 19, and in the next issue, he was branded new enemy of Spider-Man, the Scorpion. Now, he's a former private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson to find out just how Peter gets those A1 photograph of Spider-Man. But he is Spider-Man, so that was never an easy task. It wasn't working, so Jameson paid Matt 10 grand to have this experiment done from Dr. Farley Sitwell, and Gargan then turned into the Scorpion. Good times. Egghead recruited Scorpion for the Masters of Evil, but after they were captured and released, Egghead didn't come back to recruit Matt again. That's a little rude. That's a bit rude if you ask me. He's Scorpion, he's still pretty good. But down the road, Norman Osborn recruited Scorpion and was ordered to kidnap Aunt May. But during this mission, the symbiote found him and they connected through their hatred for Spider-Man and they ended up bonding. He joined the Thunderbolts as well in issue 110, and the government outfitted the symbiote with electric implants to keep him in line. He worked for the government first as a rehabilitation program for criminals, and then he joined on the more popular Thunderbolt roster, Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers.
Number 7, 1602 Carnage. Why 1602? Because everything is kind of better and often prettier in the alternate 1602 universe. This version of Carnage is a demon who is bonded with Candace Cassidy, who also happens to be the leader of the Sinister Sextet in this alternate universe. A version of the Sinister Six, led by Carnage, well, to me, that is a deadly and insane team. The Sinister Sextet included a version of the Lizard known as Reptile, a version of Hobgoblin, an alternate for Kraven known as Karnov, the 1602 version of Electro, and an alternate Mysterio known as Magnus.
Number 6, Red Hulk. He made his first appearance in Incredible Hulk issue 1 as General Ross, but come the first issue of volume 2, Ross gets a little bit of an upgrade. He becomes one of the Hulk's greatest threats. He becomes the Red Hulk. Now, the Red Hulk was created using gamma radiation, just like Bruce, but what makes him even more of a threat is the fact that this guy also has cosmic rays added to that aggressive mix. The Red Hulk doesn't get stronger the more angry he gets like Bruce, he actually gets hotter. Yeah, he turns into Ryan Gosling after too long. No, he gets stronger in anger, he burns up, physically he gets hot, and then makes an absolute mess. He's already a monster in this case, but in 2011's Venom issue 13.4, Red Hulk Ross was sent to retrieve the Venom symbiote from Flash Thompson. But when the Red Hulk got close, he turned into this. He's a Ghost Rider Venom mashup, which some would consider a pretty bad idea. I'm one of those, that's way too much. So loud too. I look at that photo and I'm like, man, that's gotta be loud. Number 5, Carol Danvers. In 2010's Siege Spider-Man run, we meet up with the Avengers, and at this point, they've gone to Asgard to take back the world from Osborn. Now, Spider-Man, of course, joins the battle, which is great, but he's doing more of a groundwork type scenario. He's not up in the sky, he can't fly, so he's working stuff out on the ground. The fight begins above Broxton, Oklahoma in Asgard, and Venom is just laying waste to everybody at this point. And then Spider-Man comes in with the quips, and then after falling down to Earth, Carol Danvers comes to the rescue. Reminds Peter where the fight truly is. Up there. He says he's more of a Street Fighter guy, that the Avengers are better off in the sky, and then when Carol asks about Venom and how his powers come from the suit, she goes for the impossible. She straight up shoves her arm down his throat, and once the symbiote is free, it then attaches itself to Carol. And then we have this ultimate badass creation. Venom loves it. He says Carol is his new favorite superhero. Flying does have its perks, I'll admit. Number 4, Groot. I am Venom. I am Venom. A family favorite when it comes to the MCU is of course Groot. We catch him as a clumsy adult in the first Guardians movie, then we catch him as a clumsy child in the second Guardians movie, and then by the time Infinity War rolls around, the little dude became a teen, even giving up his branch to create Stormbreaker. But a version I hope we never see on screen is Venom Groot. Now this happens in Guardians of the Galaxy issue 21. The Guardians trap the symbiote in after a daring mission with Gamora, luring it out. Things are fine at this point, it's working, until Groot is asked to hand Rocket the thing with the thing on top. So Groot's like, that thing? With that thing on top? Sure. This seems to complicate things because Groot has no idea what he's talking about, so he grabs the symbiote and accidentally sets it free. And before Rocket even knows it, it's consumed Groot. Number 3, Peter Parker. During the events of 1984's Secret Wars, Spidey came across a symbiote while on Battleworld. In issue 7, Spider-Woman makes her grand entrance. And then Peter Parker reacts in his usual manner. I mean, one of his first thoughts is to sue her for infringing on his shtick. Fair, more than fair. But he clocks that she just tossed a boulder as easily as he could, which is strange, because he's a superhero. In the next issue, he gets an up-close personal look at this new black suit Spider-Woman was rocking. And now we have a new costume for Spidey. How lovely is that? He feels great, he feels stronger, quicker, he's even impressed by the mechanics of the suit's ability to change. So while it all seemed like a perfect aid in this massive battle, Peter questioned why this new suit was so different. Why was it doing this? Oh well, he says, and then he returns to Earth with this new suit that just happened to activate his Spidey sense. Okay, that's a smart move, I think. And we all know that was much more than a new suit. You gotta leave things where you find them, Pete. The suit made Peter harder, better, faster, stronger, sure, but in the plot of Spider-Man 3, we also saw Peter start to brush his hair to the side and then aggressively be into jazz music. He's snapping and pointing at people on the streets all aggressive like. You can't let the symbiote mess with your head. We have a whole movie that explains why it's a bad idea. Number 2, Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer made his comic debut in Fantastic Four issue 48. Back in the early 60s, Norrin Radd is one of the most noble and tormented cosmic entities in the universe, born on the planet Zenn-La, part of an extremely long-lived, technologically advanced humanoid race. He was already quite impressive, and then in Amazing Spider-Man issue 430, he becomes the Carnage Cosmic. Just dangerous, look at this guy. Now Carnage has the ability to take out all that anger and frustration, but this time he can take it out on the entire universe. So look out world, this guy's terrifying.
Number 1, Edward Sachs. Edward Sachs gets such a high spot because of just how terrifyingly massive he is, and how evil he is as well. He's pretty evil. This version of Venom has taken up a job in politics and appears to be the mayor of New York, Mayor Waters' aide in the Spider-Man Reign storyline, which takes place on Earth 70237. Edward Sachs, as he is referred to though, actually appears to be the one pulling the mayor's strings and seems to have more control than most aides over what goes on in the city of New York. He also has been working to bring back the Sinister Six. He also made thousands of copies of the Venom symbiote and is responsible for Web, a security group responsible for preventing anyone from leaving the city.